Hi there. I'm about to share my conversation I had with Brad Lafortune at Public Interest Alberta on the Together No campaign. But before I do, I just wanted to highlight that there are two rallies in Calgary tomorrow. That is tomorrow, June 27th. There's one at 11, show up, have some conversations. At 12, we'll get into some speeches. It's all about unity. It's about bringing us together to fight back against the powers that want to divide us, standing up for treaty rights, getting into what it means to uphold the treaties. That'll be great. And then you can walk over to City Hall. So sorry, that'll be at McDougall Center, like I said, from 11 till 2, or call it 1:45. And then we'll walk over to City Hall, Calgary City Hall, to talk about anti-AI. So it's going to be an exciting conversation too, led by the youth and a lot of people I'm excited to meet, but talking about the reasons why we do not want AI running rampant in Alberta, what it means for our water, what it means to stand up for what is best for our future here, and not just supporting natural gas production for billionaires that want to leave a mess here. So get out there tomorrow. I hope to see you there. And I also wanted to say I'm taking a bit of a break over the summer from the podcast. I will be running some reruns. So I'm going to run all the episodes I've done around water, making sure that we understand the people that are fighting for our fresh water, making sure that we know what the issues are and how we want to address them. So please have a listen to those. If there's anything though that is urgent, please reach out to me. I will try and sneak in a conversation here and there as needed. But otherwise, I really appreciate the support. Remember to like and subscribe to me, please. Share my work with your friends. It makes it worthwhile. And in the fall, I am planning on doing a couple things, as I mentioned with Brad in this conversation. I want to have some conversations around the referendum questions and what they mean for folks. Want to get a diverse perspective on that. So if you're interested in having a conversation about that for yourself or your organization, let me know. And I also want to do some work. So Jay White and myself and others, we're going to work through some of help people understand what it looks like to clean up Alberta. What does a restoration boom look like for the province, and how can we get people excited about it and fighting for it? That's it for me. Please enjoy this conversation I had with Brad. It's fabulous, and get involved in the campaign. I look forward to seeing you out there, folks. Thank you.
Welcome to the Gravity Well podcast with me, Jenny Araby. I host the Gravity Well to celebrate and share the stories of the people empowering others with knowledge, skills, and plans required to reestablish stability in our communities. Your mission is to work through these heavy issues with me in order to lighten the load. I acknowledge that I live on the traditional territories of Treaty 7 and Métis Districts 5 and 6. The treaties and self-governance agreements established by Indigenous peoples were created to honor the laws of the land, maintain balance with nature, and give back to uphold reciprocal relationships. This knowledge and intention are what guide the Gravity Well conversations. I ask for genuine dialogue, real hearts, and openness to different perspectives. This is your invitation to find common ground with me. Positions taken by participants, either individually or collectively, do not necessarily represent those of the Gravity Well. This podcast is dedicated to the natural world, our children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and all future generations. The Gravity Well is on YouTube, Substack, and streaming wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you see and hear, remember to like and subscribe.
Welcome to the studio. I have Brad Lafortune in the studio today from Public Interest Alberta. We are here talking about their new campaign. Can you start with the name of it, please, Brad, and what we're going to get into here?
Absolutely. So the campaign is called Together No, and it's focused on the referendum. Surprise, surprise. And specifically getting down into talking to people in Alberta about the 9 questions that have to do with immigration and constitutional matters.
Yes, so I'm super excited to work with you on this. So Brad has granted me the opportunity to help lead in Calgary. So we had our first meeting this week, talked through some spectacular folks that have been a part of Forever Canadian or Water Not Coal, the recall, mostly recall people, the recall Nicolaides were there. And it's just using the networks that we've already built and building off of that and helping inform them, just as we had done with the recalls, but in this case, as Brad said, these critical 9 questions. So we see a lot of an agenda here, a major agenda that needs to be addressed. And I'm really grateful that Public Interest Alberta is stepping into this and putting a foot down. So I think it's, I'll share the link to the website.
Yeah.
We're going to get into that, but we're putting our foot down on these 9 questions, and we're going to do a bunch of work over the next 4 months. In short order, we want to build a big campaign. We want to have a ton of people involved, organizations, companies, whoever wants to help support and pledge towards this effort to say no to this agenda collectively. Is that a good summary of what we're doing, Brad?
That absolutely sums it up, Jenny. And I love that you referenced the boot in the website and in the materials. It really is a time for us to put our foot down on all of this nonsense. So that's perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I'm super excited by it. I saw the website and was like, yes, this is exactly what we need to do. It's a collective, no thank you. And in a really positive way. I want to underscore one of our members, actually a couple of them, were talking about having a really clear message as to why I want to stay in Canada and support these, or stand against this agenda, stand against an agenda that would seek to divide and take away our rights, divide us and take away our rights. Anything more we want to say about the why behind this? And also, Brad, can you talk a little bit about Public Interest Alberta itself? Just
sure. Yeah, I think I know we have so much to get into today. I'm super excited that you gave me the chance to sit down with you and chat. But I will say, like, about the why on the campaign, it was pretty simple. We saw so many groups, like you and I have chatted a few times, that were focusing really clearly and more or less exclusively on the big separation question that finally landed, right? And it's a big, messy question. Daniel Smith obviously tried to collapse both of the petitions into one, and we're really concerned about that as Albertans, right? Like we need to make sure that we don't have, I don't want to invoke it really, but like a Brexit situation on our hands, right? So there's a lot of groups, right? Like we've talked to Thomas Lukazik, we've talked to Jared Wesley, the Alberta NDP have a campaign that is really focused on the separation question. But you can kind of imagine people like listening where we're going with this, which is like not a lot of conversation on these other 9 questions, right? And I think part of that is that it's just so ridiculous. Like that's the first thing we need to recognize is these questions are handpicked by the Premier and her people, not focused on the things that people are telling us they're concerned about through polling and anecdotally, which is affordability, the economy, healthcare, and education, right? Cost of living, all of that stuff that really affects, working people like us. And instead, they picked 5 questions that scapegoat immigrants and 4 other questions that are about rewriting the Constitution as if there's some sort of like critical mass of provinces and people that want to do that. So I think the first thing we need to recognize is like these questions are racist on the one hand, and then just sort of foolish and not on anyone's minds on the constitutional ones. So the why is really about, we have to address this because she's putting them forward, on the agenda. And we need to send a clear message that we're rejecting this division and distraction and chaos. So that's really the why. And I mean, you touched on it, but we just kind of sat down, with people like yourself and others and said, okay, like, we got to raise our hand and do this thing, right? And Public Interest Alberta is, I think, a really good vehicle for it. We're a nonpartisan, nonprofit advocacy organization. So we're not a charity. We don't take money from any governments. We're grassroots. We have like 1,000 volunteers across the province. We're supported by organizations like the Health Sciences and UNA, really kind of focused on public services and democracy, right? And so what we're trying to do is leverage all of our existing sort of relationships and know-how when it comes to campaigning and build something bigger than we ever have. So it kind of feels overwhelming, I'll be honest, right? Because like we're going to have a big campaign, and it's like you said, in short order. We don't have a lot of time, but like it's almost like an imperative that we do this, right? We need to make sure that we don't let this government get away with scapegoating immigrants and creating more chaos within Confederation, while at the same time ignoring affordability, healthcare, and education, and other real priorities, right?
Yeah, fabulous, Brad. Yeah, I just want to underscore a couple things you said there. Like, these are hand-picked questions. They're written in a way that are very leading. Corb Lund, in a discussion with Rob Breckenridge yesterday, was highlighting, as what I heard on the news in Edmonton when I was up there at the beginning of July, the premier say, we want people to answer this way. We want people to answer yes to these 9 questions, which I thought, as Corb said, referendums are meant to get what we want to do for her, not the other way around. And this party, let's be clear, it's not just Premier Smith that's doing this. Thank you for underscoring my rationale for working with Public Interest Alberta. This is about public good. This is about ensuring our public services are being upheld, and that we have a system of democracy, that there is democratic processes where we have a say. And I want to underscore this campaign, this particular campaign that Brad is saying is going to take 4 months and be an all or nothing type effort, is about preserving a free and fair election for this province. And it is about ensuring that we don't have things coming from the states that we do not like what we're seeing today. These things that have been fueled by a racist agenda. I'll be specific, something like ICE, having that in our communities where people are being taken off the streets. I'm not saying that's where we are, but it's something we need to take these 9 questions very seriously for that reason. So I'm working with Brad in the Democracy Task Force. This is our first project together in this space, and I'm super excited to be a part of it. So let's get into what we're doing in it, please. So let's start with the website. Can you walk people through what they'll see on the website and what they should do when they get there? Thank you.
Absolutely. And you know what, Jenny, I think I'm just going to give the URL again, just because I know that you have a lot of active listeners who participate in all sorts of things. So we do want people to get involved with this campaign. It's going to be people powered, right? We're talking 500 plus volunteers, a big effort. So if you want to sign up to volunteer, you can go to albertareferendum2026.org. It's a long one, so I'll repeat it. albertareferendum2026.org. So we have the website up. It has a pledge form at the bottom that lets people sign up to stay in touch with the campaign, whether they want to pledge their vote, volunteer, or donate to the campaign. They can do that, and we'll be in touch. That's sort of our first piece that we put out there, right? We really wanted to mark our efforts in this campaign as sort of calling it like it is, right? Just being honest about what we're seeing here. We're feeling angry, we're frustrated that we're even doing this, but we need to come together in a positive way to say enough is enough, right? We don't want any more of this division distraction, but we're going to come together and vote against it. So you can check out the website. That's kind of our first thing, but it's going to be big. There's going to be a lot of different aspects to it, right? We had a first meeting in Calgary with some key organizers to talk about a regional campaign in Calgary. We're going to have the same thing in Edmonton and Lethbridge, and probably other cities like Grand Prairie and Fort McMurray as well, that will be led locally and all about having as many conversations as we possibly can with Albertans. I think the strategy really is as we're looking at this, Jenny, finding people who share our values. And I really think they are Alberta values. There's this whole myth that, we want to close the door or create a firewall. It's decades of myth making in Alberta, but I don't buy it, right? I think that Albertans are good neighbors. They work hard. They believe in fairness. And if we find people who share those values and who understand that, newcomers who are not yet citizens pay taxes, work in healthcare and education, have kids who are already in the classroom, that I don't think most Albertans really want to punish people for choosing to move here, work here, and participate and support our communities, right? I think it's about something else. And so they're trying to make a scapegoat those folks, but we're going to have that sort of campaign that's going to allow for direct conversation. So we'll have a lot of canvassing, go to a lot of events. We're going to do a roadshow, right? We're going to be on the road in August and September in 15 different locations, probably a couple each in Edmonton and Calgary, right? For a campaign launch, and then some town halls to give people some support, right? But the big thing that I think is going to move this is being really smart about how we target our conversations. Like, we don't know what turnout's going to be. We know that it's going to be a really big effort from Elections Alberta, like 60,000 workers they're saying they might have to hire. So we're going to have to be really smart at how we target our audiences, and also tell people, like, we really need you to vote and stay motivated to do it, because we need to send a message. So, and then the last thing I'll say really quickly, Jenny, is like, you and I have been talking about this, and we've been talking with other people too on the campaign about how to frame this, right? When you look at the individual questions and how they're framed by the Premier, as the Premier told Corb, right? We're framing them in a way to get the result we want. It seems like common sense, right? Like, should people have to pay their fair share for healthcare and education, essentially, is the framing. It's like, well, yeah, people should pay their fair share. But wait a minute, the reality is people are already paying taxes who are not yet citizens, and we're going to charge them more, even after 12 months when they can't get it. And then when they do get it, they might have to pay premiums if the Premier gets her way. So we need to correct the record, have honest conversations, and really speak to values, right? So, like, reject this whole project of division, and let's start talking about things that we really care about.
I spoke with one of the people that we had from Calgary on the call the other day, just this morning, and she was saying, I'm looking forward to having these conversations. Because at the end of the day, we all have, we want to be good neighbors. We want to look after each other. As you said, Albertans, generally, we want to do right by society. And I think there is, as you said, a lot of misleading happening on our behalf that we want to crack through. That's the nut we want to break open in this. Put our foot down and say no more of these lies that will divide us, and not really address the bigger issues, as you pointed out. I really want to underscore, can you talk a little bit about the polling that's going to happen both initially and throughout the campaign, just a little bit to help people understand this is going to be data driven. Well, as you said, we're going to have materials. We want people to have conversations. We want to make space for town halls, calendar, so people can get excited about these conversations and how to bring people into this discussion. I'll stop there. You.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jenny. So, like, you and I have been doing this for a long time, right? In different ways. I guess I'd start by saying, like, before I talk about the research, is like, I know for myself, like, I've been working around politics for, 20 years, say, knocking on doors, working in the building, at the legislature, and everything in between, right? And even though I think I have my finger on the pulse, I also have my own little bubbles that I live in, especially in the current media environment that we all know about, right? With social media and how we're all kind of getting fed different content based on algorithms. So, like, you just really need to check your gut check, right? With good research. And so with this campaign, when we realized that so many people were going to get behind it, we had some ability to think about, like, getting really good research. And it's a no-brainer. Like, we just need to know where we're starting from. And so what it allows us to do is target more precisely different audiences with augmented messages that are still obviously flowing from the same set of values and the same goal, which is vote no, but meet people where they're at. And so what we're doing specifically is we're working with a polling company, really great polling company. They've got decades of experience in Canada, and testing, like, our assumptions, right? And then, like, so it's like what we think are the strongest messages, what we think are the weakest messages, testing their messaging, also testing, like, whether people are convinced by the government's framing, really, when they also get alternative messaging from our side, right? That are more fact-based and values-based. And then afterwards, like, where do people land on their likelihood of voting yes or no on these questions? So we'll really be able to dig in on the messages and the overall framing of the campaign and verify some of our instincts. Because sometimes your instincts are good in politics, and sometimes they're really not, right?
Right. Yeah, well, you're a part of the Coalition for Responsible Energy too, and we just had this 2-day conference, and one of the discussions we had was around the 92% support of polluter pay.
Right.
But the comment is when prompted. So how many people don't know about the issue of polluter pay not being upheld properly in Alberta? And we landed on probably 10%. So that changes your strategy completely. If you find out that you actually have to address this broader issue of awareness rather than the question of whether or not we agree on this thing or not, right?
Yeah,
I think there's,
yeah.
as you say, a lot of agreement between Albertans, but there is this awareness piece, this lack of awareness and understanding that we are being actively misled, and questions are being framed in a way to make us think it's obviously not what is in our best interest. And I think that's something that I'm really excited about, looking at the data and making strategic efforts based on what the data tells us, and then checking back in on our assumptions again. I love this so much.
And also the conversation, just really quickly, Jenny, like, because you're saying about, you know, the care data on polluter pay principle. It made me think too, like in that campaign and so many others that we've worked on, once you have your polling that answers the questions like how much support is there for this, you know, how much frustration is there with the proponent of the question, like in this case, the government, what messages move people, which ones don't, can we collectively address the referendum rather than address each question? Once you get that data and you start putting it into your conversations through different media, you also get like this great conversational feedback from people who are having real conversations on the ground. And sometimes like you really get to nuance that messaging, right? Because it has to be a real conversation. Otherwise people, like, you can't just read a script to people, even if the polling says this. And so it's really cool. And that's the one thing I love about big sort of like direct mobilizing and organizing campaigns where you're having real conversations, is that data then becomes part of real conversations that can further nuance your message. And it's so good. Yeah.
You've made me think that this is truly a David and Goliath type story. When we think about the amount of money and energy, the backing of the United States for not only this separatist question, but quite frankly, the agenda is similar to what we're seeing in the United States in general. But as you pointed out, there's something magical that can happen when we have these organic conversations and this organic learning and this real life people on the ground giving feedback. That is really going to be our power, as you said, our ability to be agile and our ability to be truthful and follow through on the things that we're seeing. Can you speak a little bit about the training, Brad? I know there's some training planned for organizers and for volunteers. Can you help people understand that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna have training, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about that because it kind of has, like, I guess, two major parts. The first is like train the trainer training. It's a lot of trainings, but basically we want to give people who have a little bit more time and feel really engaged on this campaign the opportunity to move into kind of a leadership role. And learn how to train canvassers, organize canvassing, captain local regional campaigns themselves as part of this larger campaign. So that involves, like, obviously the basic canvassing training, but also some leadership training, right? Which is great as an organizer because then it's totally transferable and they can take this forward onto any campaign. And that's what I think, as you know, organizers, really matters, right? Because it's not just about this one effort, this one campaign. It's like, how can we build up those muscles for local volunteer community activists so they feel supported and moving into leadership roles? So that's number one, train the trainer training. And then the other kind of bucket is canvassing training, right? Like, so we'll do like really fun in-person workshops for people who want to maybe brush up their skills. They haven't gone in the doors in a long time, or maybe they never have. And talk about the messaging, talk about how to have some hard conversations, right? There will be some conversations that we like call, it's like deep canvassing. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this have heard of that before. There'll be some of that, right? Like people want like facts on, well, like how are people supporting, healthcare and education if they're non-citizens? It's like, well, yeah, you can talk about taxation and paying for services, and then also people working in the healthcare and education workforce, for example. So we'll make sure that people feel prepared. So it's kind of two-pronged in terms of the training. But what I really love about it is that, like, and you guys have talked about this, in order for this to be successful, and it will be, because it has to be, is that we need to empower local leadership through good training to just sort of like let those regional campaigns just grow on their own. But like canvassing it can be stressful, right? Like I've canvassed a lot over the years for a lot of different causes and people. But like if I haven't been on the doors for a couple months, that first door that I go up to, I'm like, oh man, what if they're mean to me? Or what if they ask me a question I don't know the answer to? Like, so all of this stuff comes rushing back. It's a big ask to get people to canvas, right? So we want to make sure people feel really supported. So yeah, that's kind of the two approaches we're doing training. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for acknowledging all of that, because it is difficult. I was just saying this morning. Door knocking isn't for everybody. So keep in mind, Brad we are going to have literature. We're going to do some lit dropping. So if you just want to go for a walk and drop materials off and not talk to people, there is a big task for you. We're going to do that through the summer for you that are teachers and are going to be tied up in September, and also in September when we get closer to the thing. But yeah, like be ready to, sorry, did I say that okay, Brad? Is that fair? Yeah.
That was fantastic. Yeah.
And then the other thing is this hard conversation. It's a muscle building exercise, and having some preparation at these town halls, being able to work through these conversations. I've done deep canvassing for Alberta Environmental Network. There is a strategy to this, and people are actually really patient with the script. I've never had an issue with that, which I find really interesting. Either you get told, leave me alone, but if people are willing to talk to you, they're fine with you looking at a script and knowing that you are referring to them. The big thing about it, I'll just underscore for people, is helping people come to the issue themselves. So just being open to them explaining it to you, right? What do you mean by that? How does that occur to you? What's your experience with that? These are the ways we can just help people come into understanding with us, rather than feel like we have to argue about facts with people. So I think there is something really, really beneficial in that understanding. But also that we have to, I'm going to say this, agitate people. We need to get our base out. We need to get people to feel that this is a moment for us to, through our actions, through our difficult or easier conversations with our neighbors, get back to a place of peace in Alberta. So this is the work that needs to get done to get us there. Is that fair? Right?
Yeah, that's great, Jenny. And with this campaign, we'll have opportunities for like hopefully hundreds of people to do different things, right? Like we'll have the canvassing teams. We'll also have outreach teams that can be identifying events, tabling at events, helping us organize the logistics. We'll have a data team that will be poring over those numbers of pledges and volunteers and making sure that we're maximizing our resources to have as many good conversations as possible. So there's data. There's also obviously communities of interest, right? Geographically and, socially and economically, right? Who are going to be more impacted by these questions potentially than others. So we're working really closely with newcomer communities and newcomer serving agencies. So there's people who will be doing that kind of like stakeholder work, as well as like, an events team, communications team. There's so many great writers in our movement, right? Like lots of teachers, lots of former journos, right? So there's just like this kind of campaign, really, like you said earlier, it's David versus Goliath, right? Like if the government spends $20 million and we spend a lot less than that, even though we are registered as an advertiser, it's going to be like a lot less than that. We're going to need to make up for that with finding ways for people to plug in that they feel good about in so many different ways. So that's totally fair. And in terms of like getting back to a place after this referendum where we can maybe be proud of the conversations that Alberta is starting within Alberta and within Canada again about how to strengthen healthcare, et cetera. That's what I really want to get to, right?
Yeah, thank you. Again, I just want to say how grateful I am for this. When you called me up and said, hey, we're doing this campaign, I was like, I just want to point out, because there are a couple other groups out there, Alberta Voice being one of them, sort of similar to what we're doing. And then the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good is doing a similar campaign. So if you happen to be a member of one of those organizations, good for you. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity to work with faith groups in this space too. I'm seeing this I'm hoping, Brad, we can have some conversations in the fall with some people around their comments to these 9 questions, or like you said, whatever the data tells us is important to communicate with people. And that's what I'm really excited about as a scientist, as I really appreciate work that comes from data, work that comes from transparency and organizing, accountability, and giving people an opportunity to bring their specific skills to this, knowing that if you want to lead an area or a group, that you have the flexibility to do so here, and you're supported by public interest through this campaign. I'm super excited about this. We're going to have some fun, right? First and foremost, this is going to be a lot of fun for the people that get involved. Anything you want to add before we close?
A couple of quick things. First of all, thank you, Jenny, for everything that you do on this podcast and in your organizing and activism in Alberta. It's a breath of fresh air when you connect with people who just genuinely care about the province and our community, and that it's you can just tell it's real, right? And it cuts through the bullshit. So thank you. And the last thing I wanted to say is that this is going to be I don't know if I said this off the top, but I've been saying it in other combos. This is going to be the biggest thing that we've undertaken in civil society in a long time, right? And we really need support. So if you're kind of on the fence right now, as you're listening to Jenny and I talk a little bit, sign up, pledge. We'll follow up. We'll have conversations, and we'll make sure that you have a spot that feels good for you, because Alberta's better than this referendum, right? We're a lot better than this, and we need to send a clear message together. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to share kind of our vision and a bit of our strategy, and looking forward to getting work done that will bring us together instead of divide us more.
Love it. Thank you so much. That's such a great message. And I'm going to just add that, if you're hearing this and you're thinking, oh, they're not doing this, they should be doing that, we want to hear from you. Yeah. Get involved, step up, pledge. As Brad said, go to the website. You'll see there's a space for you to pledge. That's signing up, joining this effort. Also, as Brad said, we are David and Goliath from a funding standpoint. If you're capable and able to pledge to the campaign financially, please do so as well. Thank you so much, Brad. We will have continued conversations, obviously. Thank you for everything you're doing, and we'll chat soon.
For sure. Thanks, Jenny. Have a good one.